Let's now talk about modulation. Before we check out all the available modulators at the bottom over here, let's take a look at how to make assignments, and that is done in this middle section over here. So as a simple example, let's say I want to assign this LFO1 to modulate the wavetable position here. So I can click on LFO1, and now we're looking at LFO1 in a bit more detail. You can see the sine wave shape for LFO1, and it says here drag knob contours to create or edit a modulation routing. So we have this knob here, but just around it there's a little contour, and I can click and drag to set up the assignment. I'm going to set the actual knob a bit higher so we can see this a bit better. And now you can see clearly that this is a bipolar modulation. So an LFO goes positive and then goes into the negative, and that's why we call this a bipolar modulator. You can see the modulation amount set up here. I can adjust it from here or directly on this curve. We can temporarily turn off this modulation by clicking on this power button or hit the X to completely get rid of it. Let's check out using a different modulator. Let's try envelope 2. So the orange ones here are envelopes. The second one should be envelope 2. So you can see here it says envelope 2. And I'm going to make the same assignment here. Click and drag to set the amount. And you can see the same number appears over here. Now one difference you notice is that envelopes are unipolar. So it only works in the positive, as opposed to LFOs that are bipolar. We can set up a negative modulation amount, but it's still only unidirectional. Alright, so that's essentially how these assignments work. Let's talk about sidechaining here. I think this will make a lot more sense if we go back to the LFO. So let's go to LFO2 this time. Let's assign it to that same position knob. Alright, that's working. And now with the sidechain, I get this sidechain list, and I can choose from any of these modulators to act as the sidechain source. Let's use the mod wheel. I've selected mod wheel, and you can choose how much that sidechain is going to affect this modulation. Let's crank it up to the maximum, which is 1. Alright, so now in the keyboard section, here we have the mod wheel. You notice that we are not hearing the modulation yet, but as I increase the mod wheel, we gradually start to hear the LFO modulation. So think of the sidechain option as just a way to control a modulation. So right now this LFO2 is modulating the position of the wavetable, and the mod wheel is controlling the amount of that modulation. So if the mod wheel is all the way up, it just works as it's supposed to. If the mod wheel is all the way down, it kills it completely. Alright, we can quickly swap out modulators by clicking over here and selecting reassign to, let's say, LFO3. Now if I go over to LFO3, we have LFO3 that's running a bit faster, but with all the same assignments. Alright, let's reassign it back to LFO2. Now, instead of using a static external controller like the mod wheel, let's use another LFO. Let's say I'll choose LFO1 here. So now LFO1 is going to control when LFO2 occurs. So this is LFO1. You can see it's running a bit slower. In fact, let's get out of this view and we can see both simultaneously. You can click on the LFO section and we can see both the LFOs. Let's actually make LFO1 a little bit slower here. And let's make LFO2 a bit faster. So when LFO1 is the positive, we hear the modulation. When it goes in the negative, it inverts it. And when it's in the middle, it kills it. So now this LFO2 modulation is constantly changing because of that sidechain assignment. Alright, so that's basically how modulations work. And one very helpful feature here is when you hover over the name of a modulator, you can quickly see its assignment. So we know that LFOs are yellow, and you can see the little curve that appears on top of the knob. Same for the envelopes, you can see the orange curve instead. Alright, so now in the next tutorial, we will dive deeper into individual modulators and their controls.